Discover the incredible journey of a grandma who overcame 30 years of trauma, a heartwarming resilience story. Mabel stood in her kitchen, the sweet scent of apple pie wrapping around her like a warm hug. Her golden fields were bathed in the soft light of the setting sun, and the laughter of her 2 grandchildren filled the air, a stark contrast to the weight that pressed down on her heart. For over 30 years, she had been a silent warrior, holding her family and community together, while silently battling her own unseen demons. Her troubled past rarely saw the light of day, hidden beneath layers of strength and tenderness. Yet, today was different. The news about the Community Heroes event sent tremors of hope through her being. It wasn't just a title. It was a chance to peel back the layers of her life, to share the heartbreak and joy intertwined. Mabel's mind raced back to her son, taken from her too soon, and the struggles that followed. Fighting the urge to recoil into the shadows, she felt a flicker of determination ignite. Maybe it's time, she thought, to show Ellie and David what strength truly looks like. As Mabel prepared for the event, the tension at home grew. Ellie, her rebellious teenage granddaughter with stormy eyes and a quest for freedom, seethed over her grandmother's past. "You don't understand, Grandma. You're defined by your losses. I want more than this." The words stung, and for a moment, despair threatened to swallow Mabel whole. How could she explain the depth of her pain when even in love, shadows lingered? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day of the event dawned bright, but the air felt thick with unspoken emotions. Mabel looked out at the crowd gathering at the park, their familiar faces blurring as doubt crept in. Would they see her as just a victim, or would they listen? As she approached the microphone, her hands trembled. Just as she began to share her story, she felt the weight of their judgment. Whispers scattered through the crowd, doubting. Some eyes glazed over. Ellie's disappointed gaze pierced through her, a reminder that vulnerability felt risky. Mabel paused, bracing herself for the moment of greatest impact. Could she step past the fear? As tears brimmed and her voice shook, she remembered the warmth of the pies she baked, the laughter that filled their home. Just as she took a deep breath to uplift her message of hope, a catcall from the back rang out, sharp as shattered glass. This is just another sad tale. Doubt crept into her heart. Would her story inspire courage, or just serve as another reminder of loss? Mabel stood at the precipice, her own doubts creeping in. Would she find the strength to rise above the shadows that stitched her life together? As the murmurs of disbelief swirled, one thought dominated her mind: was today the day she would embrace her scars and turn them into a beacon of hope, not just for herself, but for Ellie and the entire community? Mabel took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs like a tide of courage. She cleared her throat and steadied herself, determined to push through the spiraling anxiety. Just as the whispers reached a crescendo, she began to speak. "You may see the pain, but you also need to see the love." Her voice wavered, but a few familiar faces in the crowd leaned forward, eager to listen. Each word felt like a small stone thrown into a vast ocean of silence. She shared stories of hope and resilience, tales of laughter shared over kitchen tables, struggles that turned into light. Mabel mentioned her beloved son, painting a vivid picture of his spirit, why he mattered, not just to her, but to the fabric of the community. There was a stir in the crowd, a wave of empathy washing over them as she shared the warmth of memories, sweetened with the scent of countless pies and roughened by the years of tears. Suddenly Ellie stood, twin fires of rebellion and confusion burning in her eyes. "But Grandma, you can't just keep forgiving. What about your hurt? We can't pretend like it's fine." Her voice broke the moment, a stark contrast to Mabel's message of healing. Gasps rippled through the audience. For Mabel it was a dagger, sharp and unforgiving. She had hoped to show Ellie strength, not division. Mabel felt a rush of emotions, each one more intense than the last: exasperation, pride, fear. "Ellie, forgiving doesn't mean forgetting," she said, trying to meet her granddaughter's gaze. "It means finding peace in the chaos. You can carry your pain and still learn to love life." It's messy but it's real. For a moment everything stilled. The air thickened with the weight of Mabel's words, and she could feel the residual echoes of her pain settling heavily within her chest. She met Ellie's stormy eyes. A battle of generations played out in a single glance. Would her granddaughter see the strength behind the vulnerability? Before Ellie could respond, an older man near the front of the crowd called out, "We all have scars, Mabel. We just need to show each other how we patch them up." A ripple of agreement spread through the audience. Mabel turned to look at him, feeling a small spark of hope igniting. Maybe it was possible after all. She finished her story. Mabel was surprised to feel a wave of energy ripple through the space. The challenge that had felt so daunting only moments ago turned into a shared understanding. She looked at Ellie again, whose expression had softened, confusion still etched on her features, but now tinged with the slightest hint of recognition. That in that moment, Mabel felt a shift. She realized her journey wasn't just about unearthing the past but forging connections that could heal. As she stepped away from the microphone, applause erupted, thunderous and a little unexpected. A blend of fear and excitement swayed inside her. What would happen next? In the crowd, she noticed familiar faces sharing smiles, some with tears that sparkled like jewels under the sun. It was hope, a community growing closer, though the distance of understanding remained uncharted. As Mabel walked back to Ellie, the warmth of the crowd's acceptance enveloped her. But before she could reach her granddaughter, a stranger who had been listening stepped forward, holding a small card. Mabel recognized the look in his eyes. It mirrored the yearning she had felt for decades. "Your story inspired me," he said, quietly handing her the card. "But can you help me too? I lost someone and I don't know how to move on." With those words, Mabel felt the full weight of her journey shift again. She was no longer just a tale of loss. She was becoming a guide. Would she accept the role of mentor, of healer? The choice hung in the air like a promise waiting to unfold. Mabel glanced down at the small card in her hands, the ink slightly smudged as her fingers trembled with uncertainty. Each letter seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a heartbeat echoing the sorrow of another. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a kind of buzzing on the edge of perception, and she felt the gravity of the stranger's request anchor her in that moment. "Of course I can," she said, her voice finding strength as it rose above the noise. "Let us talk." The stranger looked relieved, his eyes brightening. She waved Ellie over, wanting her granddaughter near, hoping to share this moment of connection between them. Ellie approached, a frown still etched on her brow. Mabel saw the internal struggle playing out on her face. "I'm okay, sweetheart," she assured her gently. "Just someone who needs a little help." The man introduced himself as Tom, sharing how he had lost his wife mere months ago. His voice cracked as he spoke, the struggle raw and evident. "I don't know how to move forward," he confessed. His shoulders slumped under the weight of his grief. "I keep hoping I'll wake up and none of this will be real." Mabel shifted slightly closer, her heart aching for him. "I understand, Tom. I lost my son. It's a journey, one that feels impossible. But I promise you don't have to walk it alone." Ellie observed in silence, a curious mix of emotions washing over her as she watched her grandmother embrace this role. Was it possible to not only heal herself but also help others? Mabel's hands were steady now, warmed by purpose, and Ellie felt an unexpected twinge of pride. Mabel reached for her granddaughter's hand and squeezed it gently, giving her a reassuring smile. Then Tom stepped back almost timidly, and Mabel could see the flicker of hope flicker within him. "How did you manage?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. But there it was, an openness, a willingness to be vulnerable. "I found my way through memories," Mabel began. "Through stories like the one I shared today. It's about allowing yourself to feel, to grieve, but then also to celebrate what you had. I learned to embrace both my pain and my love." The crowd was listening again, captivated by this thread of shared experience. Mabel could sense Ellie's conflict. Was this what it meant to forgive, to honor those we've lost? Tom's eyes glistened with gratitude. "Can we meet again? Maybe I could hear more of your story?" Mabel nodded, excitement blending with the apprehension. "Absolutely. I think we can all help one another," she said, gesturing toward the crowd, who were murmuring in agreement. As she turned, looking at everyone gathered, she saw the faces of her community, each one marked by their own pain, but also by resilience. They were ready to share their scars, just as she had just begun to share hers. A sense of unity washed over her, stronger than before. But just then, Ellie stepped up and said, "Grandma, I want to help too." Her voice was firm, like she had just stepped out of a fog and into clarity. Mabel's heart soared. Ellie was willing to join this journey, to bridge the gap that had long been between them. Suddenly, a woman from the back of the crowd voiced what many were likely feeling. What if sharing our stories is the path to healing? What if we all need to come together? Mabel's lips curled into a smile full of possibility. Was this the beginning of something larger? A support group? A network built on stories? Her heart raced with excitement. Maybe they could create a safe space. But as she pondered this, a question lingered at the back of her mind, one that had not yet been answered. What would be needed to truly heal both for herself and for her community? Mabel looked at Tom, at Ellie, and the hopeful faces around her. The journey ahead felt immense, full of potential and need. She took a deep breath, ready to embrace it all. What would it mean to navigate all this together? Mabel stood at the center of the gathering, surrounded by a sea of faces etched with stories of loss and hope. The air felt charged, thick with unspoken words and shared memories. She was no longer just a grieving mother. She had become a beacon for those looking for light in their shadows. Her heart raced, uncertainty mixing with excitement. As she looked over the crowd, Tom's tentative smile gave her courage. What if we start meeting weekly? Mabel proposed, her voice steady. We could share our stories, support each other. There's power in connection. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Someone in the back shouted, "Yes. Let us do it." Ellie's hand tightened around Mabel's, a squeeze that felt both reassuring and electrifying. "I'll help with whatever you need," Ellie declared, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. It was a stark contrast to the doubt that had clouded her spirit days before. Mabel beamed at her granddaughter. "We can make flyers, spread the word. This should be a space where people feel safe." A woman near the front, with dark circles under her eyes, stepped forward. "I lost my husband last year. I thought healing would come from time, but it hasn't. I'd love to share in a space like that." Her voice quivered, but it carried strength, the kind that spoke of the burden she had carried alone. "Absolutely," Mabel replied, her heart swelling with gratitude for the woman's bravery. "This will be a safe haven for all of us." The thought sparked something in Mabel. It was more than a simple meeting. This could be a lifeline for the many who felt lost. Her mind whirled, contemplating how they could structure it, make it inviting yet meaningful. As the event began to dissolve into chatters and quiet groupings, Mabel noticed Ellie talking animatedly with another girl about her age. For the first time in weeks, Ellie seemed at ease. Mabel's heart fluttered at the sight, the bond between them slowly mending as they ventured into this new chapter together. But doubt lingered in the back of Mabel's mind. What if it all fell apart? What if she didn't have the answers people sought? Her own grief was still raw. Could she really offer others the strength they needed? As if sensing her turmoil, Tom approached her. "You're doing something amazing, Mabel. I wish I had someone like you when I was really struggling. You're strong." Mabel offered a soft smile, but inside, the nagging worry remained. Was she truly strong? Or just pretending for everyone else's sake? Just then, she noticed a man lurking at the edge of the crowd, his expression solemn. Something about him pulled at her heart. "Excuse me for a moment," she said to Tom, stepping away to approach the man, an inexplicable connection drawing her near. "What's your name?" she asked gently. His eyes lifted, revealing a depth of sadness few could muster the courage to expose. "Jake," he replied, voice low. I'm not sure if I belong here." "Everyone belongs here, Jake. Just to listen or to share, it's all part of the journey." As they spoke, Mabel could feel the flicker of hope igniting within her. Jake's isolation echoed her fears, but she also sensed the weight of their shared understanding. Perhaps this was her path, that in helping others, she might ultimately help herself. The crowd around her buzzed with energy, identities curling together, and Mabel realized they were all entwining their struggles into the fabric of their community. But amid the warmth of hope, an unsettling thought loomed. What would happen when the stories got too raw? When the grief spiraled too deep? These questions whispered through her mind, hinting at challenges to come. In this new space of healing, every burden shared would carry the potential for immense transformation, but it could also unearth scars that had yet to heal. Mabel took a deep breath, letting it fill her lungs, the air thick with promise and uncertainty. Together, they were embarking on a journey that could lead to light or darkness. What awaited them on this shared path of healing? Mabel found herself standing in the same spot where she had first approached Jake, surrounded by laughter and whispers that felt distant compared to the heaviness in her heart. She glanced around, taking in the faces shining with newfound connection and hope. It was incredible to witness, but her mind darted back to her worries. The weight of the moment pressed on her, almost suffocating. "Mom!" It was Ellie rushing towards her. "Look, I convinced a few friends to join us next week. This is going to be amazing." Ellie's face radiated joy, innocence balancing beautifully against her previous pain. A smile broke through Mabel's uncertainty. "That's wonderful, sweetie." But as Mabel's smile faded, she felt the shadows creeping in again. What if the weight of real stories led to new burdens? She remembered the woman's trembling voice, the weight of grief that wrapped around every word. They were vulnerable, standing at the edge of their losses, and she had just invited them to leap. Tom approached, noticing the shift in her demeanor. "Mabel, you okay?" She hesitated before nodding. "It's just a lot of heavy emotions. I want to help but I'm scared." Tom put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You know what? They need you just as much as you need them. That's the beauty of this. It's not about having the answers, it's about sharing the journey. Let it unfold." His words hung in the air like a gentle promise. Mabel felt the warmth of courage begin to wrap around her once more. "You're right. It's not on me to fix it, we're in this together." She looked back to where Jake stood, watching quietly, the shadows still clinging to him like an unwanted cloak. "Let us get him involved," Mabel said, her confidence returning. "I want to invite him to share his story next week." With determination, Mabel strode over to Jake, who seemed surprised as she approached. "Jake," she started softly, "I know this is scary, but would you like to share your story with us next week?" He hesitated, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "I don't know if I can talk about it. It's okay to just listen at first," she offered gently. "But know that this space is created for you too. You matter to us." Jake looked into her eyes, that depth of sadness mingling with a hint of hope. "Maybe I could try." Mabel nodded, feeling the connection solidifying. "That's all we ask." As the gathering began to disperse, Mabel felt the weight lift slightly, replaced by a burgeoning anticipation. They were creating something powerful together. Each person held a thread, intertwining their stories and weaving a tapestry filled with heartache but also with resilience. That night, as Mabel lay in bed, she felt restless. She knew that their first meeting could go in 1,000 different directions. They might uncover layers of pain that even she hadn't anticipated. Could she really handle it? She tossed and turned, thinking of the courage it took to face those unwanted feelings. How long could she be the rock for everyone before her own foundation cracked? With a deep breath, she drew away from the scary thoughts. Instead, she focused on the faces she had seen today, their longing for connection, for understanding. Perhaps that was the answer. Not to hold everything herself, but to be a part of their collective strength. She whispered a quiet prayer for wisdom, then settled deeper into her pillows, sleep finally taking her, cradled by thoughts of hope. But as dawn approached, it arrived with an unexpected change in the air. A letter slipped through her door. Unassuming and plain, nothing could prepare her for the secrets it would unveil. What awaited inside would shake the very core of the community they had just begun to build. Mabel awoke with the sun streaming through her window, a golden light pouring into the room almost too bright for the shadows lingering in her mind. The letter lay on the floor, a quiet yet persistent presence that tugged at her thoughts. Her heart raced as she swung her legs over the side of the bed, a strange mix of curiosity and apprehension filling her. She picked up the letter, its simplicity betraying the potential storm it might unleash. With trembling hands, she tore it open. The paper felt cold and crinkly, a stark contrast to the warmth of the day outside. As she read the words scrawled across the page, her breath caught in her throat. Memories, names, faces she thought she had buried surfaced with a vengeance. They were ghosts of the past, reminders of choices made and paths not taken. "Mabel, I need to meet," it read. "There's something vital we need to discuss. It's about Jake." Her mind raced. What could it possibly be that related to him? Had he shared something with others? She had promised to be a safe space, a rest stop on the journey through grief and healing. Her heart ached at the possibility of secrets that might explode the fragile connections they were building. She glanced at the clock on the wall. There wasn't much time before Ellie would wake up, and she wanted to gather her thoughts. She needed to process what this letter meant. What did the writer know that could change everything? In the kitchen, she poured herself a cup of coffee, the aroma filling the room and lending her a sense of grounding. As she sipped, she felt an overwhelming wave of protectiveness. It wasn't just Jake she was worried about. It was the whole community forming around their stories. Did they have the strength to face the truths waiting to be unearthed? Lost in her thoughts, the morning suddenly buzzed around her as Ellie bounded into the kitchen, her bright smile infecting the air. "What's up, Mom?" Mabel forced a smile, hoping to mask her internal chaos. "Just thinking about our meeting next week and some things that might come up." Ellie's curiosity sharpened. Like what? Mabel hesitated. What could she tell her daughter? She didn't want to erode Ellie's joy with heaviness that she herself could barely carry. Just stories. Everyone has them and some are tough. Ellie's eyes widened. "But we can help, right? Just like you're doing, Mom." "Yes, we can," Mabel agreed, her resolve strengthening. "And it will take all of us to face whatever comes, even the hard stuff." With that, the warmth of Ellie's companionship washed over her, reminding Mabel of the light that could pierce through the darkest shadows. As they shared breakfast, Mabel's mind drifted back to the letter. She knew she couldn't keep it to herself. She had to tell Tom. He understood the weight of these kinds of revelations. Later that day, Mabel found a moment alone with Tom. "I received a letter addressed to me. It's about Jake," she began, her voice trembling. Tom's brows furrowed with concern. "What does it say?" She hesitated, grappling with her fear of what Tom might think of her if this spiral threatened the group's foundation. "It suggests the need for a deeper conversation." Tom took her hand, reassuring yet steady. "Then we need to make sure he feels supported. Whatever is brought up can't be avoided." Mabel nodded, feeling the swell of anxiety mixing with a rush of adrenaline. They would face this together. But as they discussed the implications of the letter, a new thought crept into Mabel's mind. Were they ready to confront the shadows lurking within their stories? What truths could unravel in the light? In that moment, uncertainty weighed heavier than before. She realized they were just steps away from a revelation that could alter everything and even more compelling. She sensed that the journey ahead might change not just Jake's story, but her own as well. Outside, a storm began to brew, thunder rumbling ominously in the distance. Mabel's heart matched the tempo. Perhaps the time had come to awaken old wounds they had barely begun to heal. What if this was about more than just Jake? As the wind picked up, she couldn't shake the feeling that the answer to their struggles was lurking just out of sight, ready to unveil deeper connections than they ever dared to confront. Would they embrace the tempest to reveal their truths, or would the storm push them further apart? The storm rolled overhead, clouds churning with restless energy, casting a shadow over Mabel's thoughts. She felt the weight of the letter in her pocket, like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. Tom's calm presence brought her some comfort, but doubt lingered, swirling in tandem with the storm outside. As they gathered the group for their weekly meeting, Mabel felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What would she say? How could she prepare them for the tide of emotions that was about to break? They were becoming a family, sharing the burden of their losses, but this felt different. The stakes were higher now. The room filled slowly. Faces she cared about, friends, fellow survivors gathered in eager anticipation. Ellie took her seat, her young energy a beacon of hope in the tumult. Mabel could hardly look at her, knowing the potential heartaches lurking in the revelations that awaited them. When everyone settled down, Mabel took a deep breath and cleared her throat. "Thank you all for coming. I received a letter that I think we need to discuss." Silence echoed in response. All eyes zoomed in on her, capturing her hesitation, urging her to continue. She pulled out the letter, hands shaking slightly. "It's about Jake." Choosing her words carefully, she detailed the contents, her voice wavering with each sentence. They were no strangers to pain, but she could sense the gravity in the room growing heavier. The group was quiet, absorbing the news. Finally, it was Sarah, a fellow participant who had buried her own losses, who broke the silence. "Do you think he's ready for whatever this is?" she asked, genuine concern heavy in her voice. More than ever, Tom interjected. with a warmth that radiated strength. "We're all here and we'll support him. We have to give him the space to share if he chooses to." Nods of agreement rippled around the room. Mabel's heart swelled. Maybe they could support each other as they unraveled the tangled threads of their stories. But just as she began to feel a sense of unity, the thunder cracked again, louder this time, making them jump. A torrential downpour erupted outside, rain pounding against the windows like a fierce drumbeat. Mabel felt her chest tighten, seeped in anxiety. The storm mirrored her own brewing emotions. "Let us not let the storm intimidate us," she said, pushing against her own fears. "This is our chance to embrace whatever truth comes out of this." Ellie, bright-eyed but worried, spoke up again. "But what if it hurts, Mom? What if it's too much?" Mabel bit her lip, a lump forming in her throat. "Sometimes the things that hurt the most also heal us," she murmured, her voice a shaky whisper but layered with resolve. "We can't run from the truth. We have to face it." As if on cue, the brightness of a flash of lightning illuminated the room, and for a moment, it felt like a spotlight on them, revealing their vulnerabilities, their hopes, and their fears. They were all in this together, standing tall against the storm. They spent the next hours discussing their own stories of loss, fear, and the hope that filled the cracks left behind. As they shared, Mabel's chest started to loosen. She could feel the weight lifting, if only slightly. Each story shared was like a small candle fighting off the dark, igniting connection and camaraderie. But as the meeting wound down, Mabel felt an unsettling urgency. They had opened themselves up, but how would they handle the fallout when Jake arrived and shared his truth? The storm outside began to subside, but within her heart, uncertainty lingered like a stubborn shadow. What if Jake's story shifted everything they had built? Mabel looked around the room and caught Ellie's gaze. Their connection held a promise of strength, but the question echoed within her. Were they ready for the ripples that the truth would create? As everyone prepared to leave, a text came through on Mabel's phone, a simple "I'm here." It was Jake. The air thickened instantly. Mabel felt a rush of fear and anticipation. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. Would they find healing together, or would the truth break them apart? The door creaked open and Jake stepped in, his figure framed against the fading storm. Mabel's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing as she took in the sight of him. He looked different somehow, heavier with unspoken burdens. The room stilled as he entered, and every gaze shifted toward him, filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "Sorry I'm late," he said, his voice a soft undertone against the retreating thunder. His eyes darted from face to face, seeking comfort in their familiar expressions. Mabel felt the flutter of unease in her chest. "Jake," she started, her voice barely above a whisper, "we were just discussing your letter." The words hung in the air, thick with expectation. "I got here as soon as I could," Jake replied, brushing damp hair from his forehead. He took a deep breath, that familiar tension washing over him again. "I wanted to be here. I just needed a moment." "What do you need from us?" Sarah asked gently, the warmth palpable in her tone. They had all shared secrets here, raw and vulnerable, and it was time for Jake to do the same. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, the uncertainty palpable. "I guess I need you to listen, and to understand." His gaze turned toward Ellie, who sat wide-eyed, seemingly holding her breath. "I need you all to know that it's not going to be easy." Mabel felt her heart ache for him. She remembered what it felt like to stand at the edge of terrifying truths, terrified of the damage they might cause. "We're here," she urged. "Take your time." Jake nodded, stepping deeper into the room, and with each step, it felt like he was shedding the weight of the world outside. He settled into a chair, letting out a shaky breath. "Some of this isn't just about me. It's about our whole family and what I've been carrying." The stillness was electric. Mabel held on to every word as if they were precious. Jake's hands clutched the sides of the armrest, knuckles white against the swirling darkness outside. "There were things I never talked about," he began. "Things that happened long before any of this, before I could understand them." His voice cracked, emotion bubbling just beneath the surface. "But those things twisted into who I became. They shaped my fears, and they took me away from everyone I cared about." The room felt heavy with empathy. Mabel glanced around to see everyone nodding, hearts echoing the weight of his confession. She believed they all felt the truth he was about to share stretched between them like a taut rope. I was afraid, you know? Jake continued, his eyes glistening. Afraid of being a burden, so I shut everyone out. But that it only left me feeling more alone. More lost. He paused, the vulnerability overwhelming. I thought I could handle it. I thought it was easier to just disappear. Ellie leaned forward, her young face filled with compassion. You're not a burden, she said softly, the strength of her voice grounding him. You're family. Jake's tears brimmed as he took in her words. I just didn't want to admit how much it hurt to feel that way. Mabel felt a surge of emotion, recognizing the truth in his words. She was reminded of their journey together, every shared story, every moment of darkness struggled through as a united front. The air shifted as the words settled among them. They were no longer just witnesses to Jake's pain. They were part of this process of healing. Maybe it's time to face this as a family, Mabel found herself saying. To pull together and face the chaos that comes with the truth. Jake, we're here to support you now and always. Jake's expression softened, the fear in his eyes flickering with hope. Can we really do this? He asked, his voice trembling. The question hovered in the air, heavy with possibility. Could they navigate the storm of emotions? Or would they find themselves lost in the very truths they sought to uncover? With the rain still pattering softly against the windows, Mabel felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. They would stand together. They would be stronger than the chaos surrounding them. But as they braced for the journey ahead, uncertainty also whispered its inkling. How deep did the wounds go? And would the memories once buried reveal truths that would unravel everything they held dear? The air thickened with anticipation as Jake searched for the words that felt trapped somewhere deep inside him. He glanced at each familiar face, seeking a flicker of reassurance or understanding. Do you all remember the summer we spent at Grandma's old house? He began, his voice steadier now. The one with the creaky floors and that giant oak tree in the backyard? Mabel nodded. Memories flooded back, the laughter and warmth of those long sun-soaked days. When I was there, Jake continued, his gaze far away, there were things I never told any of you. Secrets that felt too big to share, things I thought I'd buried. Mabel leaned closer, her heart racing. He was opening the door to a past they had all walked by, lingering only in the shadows. What are you saying? She prompted gently. I'm saying I used to think the past could be left behind. But it clung to me like a shadow that wouldn't let go. His eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I got scared, and every time I thought about it I ran. The room was silent, hanging on to his every word. Jake swallowed hard, the weight of his confession pressing down like the storm outside. I ran because of what happened with Mom. You all know she struggled, but none of you really know how deep it went for me. I faced things that I just didn't understand. Jake, Sarah interjected softly. You're not alone in that. We all loved her. We had our struggles too. Looking down, Jake nodded. I know, but I couldn't see it then. I thought if I just kept my head down and pushed through, things would get easier. He paused, the vulnerability making his voice tremble. But they didn't. They got worse. Ellie, still leaning forward, frowned in confusion. What do you mean? The night we had that fight when Mom got really sick, I felt like I had to protect you all. So I shut everyone out. I tried to be the strong one when, inside, I was just terrified. A shudder ran through him and Mabel felt tears prickle her eyes. You don't have to bear that weight alone, Mabel comforted, her voice a soothing balm amidst the tension. We've got each other. Always. Jake's expression softened at her words. But that's the thing, I waited too long. I pushed and pushed until everything felt like it was just crumbling. And that night I didn't know what to do. I felt like a coward for even thinking I could seek help. Seeking help is cowardly, Mabel said fiercely, her heart swelling. It takes strength to admit when we need something. We're all flawed. You're not alone in this. Jake's breath hitched. But what about facing the memories? What if they scare you? What if they change everything? A tense hush fell over the room, each word sticking in the air like a bead of sweat on a hot summer day. Mabel could feel the weight of their shared history, years of unspoken pain mingling with love. Change is hard, Sarah said carefully, but isn't that what brings us closer? Learning together even the difficult parts. Isn't family about facing those fears side by side? Mabel felt the stirring of hope. They could navigate this path together. Yes, we are stronger united. Whatever the truth is, we will face it as a family. Jake looked up, a flicker of determination starting to flicker across his features. Okay, he said, a sense of resolve building in his tone. I want to face it. Together. As they all sat there in that moment, the storm outside faded into the background, replaced with the powerful stillness of their shared commitment. But then, a question sparked in Mabel's mind as she looked at Jake. A knot of curiosity and dread mixing together. What happens if we uncover something that changes everything we think we know? She whispered, uncertainty edging into her voice. Jake's eyes widened, and the weight of possibility hulked silently around them. The journey to truth was about to begin, but the fragility of their connections hung in the balance, ready to shift with the slightest push. Mabel stood at the center of the room, flooded with anticipation. The weight of Jake's words hung thick in the air. Could they truly face the memories waiting just beneath the surface? At that moment, she felt the collective strength of the group, a family forged through shared loss and healing. As Jake took a deep breath, it seemed as though time slowed. All right, he said, determination lighting up his eyes. He began to recount the night everything changed the night. He felt the weight of his mother's struggle push down on him. The tale unfolded tentatively, but as he spoke, the shackles of silence began to crack. Mabel's heart raced as she watched the others lean into Jake's story. The empathy on their faces was palpable. They were no longer just listeners but fellow travelers on this journey towards uncovering the truth. He spoke of the fear, the anger, of feeling like he had to be the rock while inside he was crumbling. I thought if I could just stay strong for everyone else, the storm would pass, Jake murmured, his voice cracking with emotion. But it didn't. It only intensified. Mabel met Ellie's gaze, her granddaughter nodding softly, as though she recognized a parallel in her own struggles. They had all learned to carry their pain, but here was Jake, revealing a new layer of honesty, a vulnerability that demanded recognition. Tears brimmed in Mabel's eyes. You're not alone in this, Jake, she assured. Her voice steady but laced with raw emotion. None of us have to weather the storm by ourselves. We're here and together we can find shelter. A quiet energy pulsed through the gathering. Murmurs of agreement spread. They were bound by their stories and losses, each revealing the threads of their past woven tightly with each other. Jake glanced around the room, sensing something shifting. Every expression told him they understood to varying degrees the pain, the struggle of trying to hold everything together while inside, feeling as though it was falling apart. I need to tell you about my mom that night. Jake's voice dropped to a hush, almost reverent. I felt her slipping away. I projected my fear onto you all. I thought if I could bury it deep enough it wouldn't hurt you. But I realize now what I did was push you all away. Sarah, who sat nearby, couldn't hold back any longer. But that's the thing, Jake. When you pushed us away, you also pushed away the chance for us to help you. We all wanted to bear that with you too. The honesty in the room expanded like a flame catching dry wood, causing Jake's face to soften as he considered their words. Maybe I let the storm consume me, he whispered. But I see now I can't heal alone. I want to change that. Then silence wrapped around them, anchoring them in this vulnerable moment. Mabel felt her heart swell. This act of bravery would ripple through their gathering like a gentle breeze. Together we can face all of it, the past and the hurt, she said softly. We can transform it into strength. As Jake's shoulders relaxed under the weight of their acceptance, he opened up further, unraveling layers of hurt he had kept closed off. The depth of their honesty cut through years of silence. Each person began to share their own stories, rays of the past filtering through cracks that had long been sealed. Mabel felt Ellie watching her. Her daughter's bright eyes were now gleaming with understanding. She squeezed Mabel's hand tightly, whispering, I get it now, Mom. It's not just about forgiving the past. It's creating a future where we don't face it alone. The connections deepened, hearts intertwining amidst shared stories of grief and healing, sometimes messy, often powerful. They realized vulnerabilities were not weaknesses. Instead, they were the ties that brought them closer, each narrative threading into a vibrant tapestry of resilience. As they settled into their new understanding, Mabel felt the heaviness in her heart lift moment by moment. They had journeyed from isolation to connection, emboldened by their honesty, and by the realization that pain could be a bridge instead of a wall. Eventually, as the air settled around them, a sense of resolution bloomed. So this is just the beginning, isn't it? Jake stated, hope eventually glimmering through his earlier fear. Yes, Mabel exclaimed, feeling a radiant smile spread across her face. We'll continue. We'll meet, share, and encourage one another. Together we'll learn to navigate the storm and seek the healing that lies beyond it. Ellie beamed, the glow of promise illuminating her youthful features. Each member of their new family, grounded in shared experiences, opened their hearts, ready to embrace a supportive journey moving forward. As they walked out together, the storm began to clear. The weight of the clouds lifted, revealing the sun piercing through, bathing them in warmth and light. Mabel glanced at Jake, now transformed, and she knew they had embarked on something powerful, a community turned family, joined in shared purpose, ready to face the depths of their truths together. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. Mabel felt a sense of peace settle over her, knowing that they would pave their way towards healing, forever united in their journey. And dear friends, this is your moment too. Make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive stories about hope and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this message of resilience. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to embrace their own transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support means everything to us, and you need to be part of this journey. Let us change lives together.